Hello and welcome to another episode of the Progressive Queens. I am joined by Mickey today as my panelist. Wiki is waving hello, so we're going to get right to it and jump into, well, it was a slow week, highlighted by two things. And the first thing I want to talk about, apparently, Senator Tim Scott and Vice President Kamala Harris don't think that there's racism in America. And I want to talk about your take on that.
Well, I have to first take a second to think without using foul language. I'm white, and if I can see it, clear as day, how they can't, I have no idea. Are they bought that much that they would? They're disgracing the human race. Never mind just black people. That is unbelievable. And Tim Scott, after he listed all the ways he's experienced racism in his life, said there is no racism. How do you how do you justify that?
You can't. It's so, I mean, he, like you said, he went on and listed all the ways he's been discriminated against, been targeted, and then turns right around and says, there's no, it's like it's like they wrote that response for somebody else. And then at the last minute, they thought, oops, let's get somebody black. It's like
Well,
they did.
he doesn't seem to realize that of all the Republicans in the Senate, all 50 of them, there's only one black person, one black Republican person. He's the only one. In the House, there are 55 black people. Two of them are Republicans. Does he not see that?
Apparently not, but then you had the vice president jumping on board on the same comments, and I'm like, where do they live? Do they live in some place that I don't know exists? Because I'm like, yes, there is racism, absolutely, positively racism.
Has she forgotten how she went after black men when she was the prosecutor? How
Apparently,
she how she kept them in prison? How she didn't bother to go after Mnuchin with all the homes that were lost because of him? Did she forget that she didn't go after the white Catholic priests who were accused of sexually abusing young boys? Did she forget that? That she practiced it herself even though she is black?
well, she went to that whole "I'm everyone's vice president" card that I can't stand that. Well, common sense tells me yes, you're obviously everybody's vice president. That you don't have to say that. Um, I was just like, okay, so maybe it was something. I kept thinking, okay, I'm missing something. I'm missing because what I thought she was going to say is, of course, racism is a problem in America, and this is what we're going to do about it. Nope. She says, yeah, racism, there's no racism, but then in the same breath, she says we have to address it. Well, if there's no racism, why then address it? That literally made no, like her response, like, why are you even responding? Just shut up if you're going to give that poor of a response. Because it was like she was
Pandering.
trying to have it both ways.
Yeah, exactly. She's pandering. That's I get angry enough when white people say that. When black people say it, I start to lose it. How you can be prejudiced against and experience it your whole life and then deny it exists just to what? To earn points with your party? To earn points with your base? There's almost nobody in our government who's interested in bettering this country in any way. Now, what about how do you feel as far as race?
Okay, so Mickey has disappeared, guys. So she's gonna work on getting in, and I'm gonna kind of address um more of the president's address, which, by the way, is not called a State of the Union. Apparently, the first year of the presidency, it's not a State of the Union, it's just addressed to the Congress. So she's back. So I didn't have to address you by myself. Mickey, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I fumble fingers. My hands tremor, and I always hit when I'm not supposed to. This thing about Biden wanting to ban menthol cigarettes. Now, let me put it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Black people are the ones who smoke menthol much more than whites. Menthol accounts for only 1/3 of cigarettes sold, and mostly to blacks. If they're worried about the health of Americans and the cost of cigarettes to the health of Americans, why are they banning 1/3 of what the cigarettes sold and not the other 2/3? My thought, it's just another addition to the black code. Are police now going to stop every black person they see smoking a cigarette, ask them if it's a black market cigarette, and then can escalate from there?
You know, I know there's a lot of controversy on that, and I didn't expect to get a question, but I don't know how I feel about that because I think all cigarettes are just disgusting. I'm like, ugh, I can't stand them. I don't like them. I don't like being around them. So for me, if you're just gonna ban them all. But of
Yep,
course, then common sense says, well, Tracy, they did that with alcohol, and look what happened. So you
right.
can't, as much as I don't like something, banning it doesn't make much sense to me. If you get what I'm saying. Now, what they could do, and I don't know if they're thinking about this, is if they want to like increase, well, they have to do it on all cigarettes, not just menthol. They could increase the taxes if they're so concerned about the health risk that goes along with treating the effects of cigarettes. They could do that, but
But why only target the ones that mostly blacks use?
yeah, I don't know where that came from. I kept wondering that myself. I'm like, well, why just this one and why not the other ones? I didn't
Exactly.
understand that at all.
It just tells me this administration is still racist. I I'm a smoker, I admit it, but I don't see this. I'm not saying don't ban cigarettes. I'm saying if you're going to ban them all. Don't ban the ones that are targeted only to one person, one kind of person. And I'm afraid it'll give cops another excuse to stop black men. I mean, they stop them from walking down the street.
Or riding
Never
their
mind.
bicycle.
Yeah, or barbecuing or bird watching. I'm I think Harris is following the lead of Biden. That's their mindset.
Yeah, and like I said, that whole issue of the cigarettes thing, I tried to put it out of my mind because literally I'm like, okay, that's not gonna happen. You're not That's just prohibition part two or prohibition 21st century. It's not gonna happen. So I just disregarded some things when he talks. I'm like, okay, that's not happening. So shut up and go next.
It just bothers me that Harris and Biden agree on this, and it specifically targets black people.
Yeah, and I haven't heard anything else about that yet. I was
Well,
surprised.
they've wanted to do it for years, but it happening right now with racial tension so high in this country, I almost feel like they're looking for the black people to explode. And it was kind of would be rightful if they did. And then they can say, see how dangerous and violent they are.
Yeah, I mean, they say that already. I mean, if you just watch Fox News, but like I said, it's not going to happen. The cigarettes are not going to get banned. If anything, if anything, what he should have did if they were smart is they should have talked about increasing the taxes. And again, do it on all cigarettes, not just this one
You
type.
realize that 3/4 of the cost of cigarettes is taxes.
Yes, I sure do. But if you're gonna say something like banning it, that makes literally no sense. You know, people are gonna get it on the black market. So, alternative would be to increase the taxes. Taxes on cigarettes go up every year, and I still know people. They'll complain about it. But guess where they're gonna go to the gas station and buy pack of cigarettes.
And the thing is, if you're going to ban menthol cigarettes, are you going to ban the cigars too? Are you going to ban pipe tobacco? I buy, I make my own cigarettes because it costs about 1/10 of buying them. And what I use is pipe tobacco, which is exactly the same as cigarette tobacco, except it's a little coarser. It's not as fine. Are they going to ban pipes too?
Yeah, that and like I said, that's just it. I just think there's no chance that's gonna happen because look at the results. I mean, if we don't learn from our history, we're going to be doomed to repeat it. When someone
Right.
came up with that brilliant idea of let's ban alcohol, well, then you had speakeasies and gangsters making money, and you have all these
But
other.
but that was general. Ban alcohol to everyone. This one is specifically targeted, and that's what's got me angry.
Yeah, but if you ban, if he, let's just say he got that ban, menthols. There's other types of cigarettes, right? There's other types of cigarettes
Oh,
besides menthols.
yes, yes,
Okay, well, wouldn't you ideally think? Now, I would think because I'm not a smoker. If you can't smoke one, wouldn't you just go to the other one?
exactly, exactly.
And it's like someone who makes the other one. It's like, okay, ban it because this is digging into our sales. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a tobacco lobby beyond that.
Wow, I didn't even think of that angle.
Because if they want all the money, well, just ban this. We'll hike the price of this legal stuff. Assuming
Wow,
everyone's gonna follow the law. See, yep. I would
that's a
not
good
be
thought.
surprised. I would not
That
be surprised.
I didn't even think of that angle, but you're right.
Yep.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Money in politics, it'll make you scream. But like I said, when I did my impromptu taping on Wednesday for the State of the Union, he said a whole bunch of nothing. I'm like, what? This takes an hour? Really? You spent an hour on this? I sat there for an hour and watched run on census, no policies. It was just ideas. Okay, ideas
Yes,
are fine. Ideas are perfectly fine, but I should be the one coming up with ideas. I don't have any, but he needs to legislate. Well, no, he's not a
exactly.
legislator. He needs to sign because he can't legislate. He's the president. He
Yeah,
can't
he
legislate.
needs to put pressure on his party.
Yeah. Yeah, put pressure on his party. I was surprised that he brought up the $15 minimum wage. I thought, oh, wait a minute. He doesn't want it. Why is he bringing it up?
No, he's not. If he wanted anything that he said he wants, he would end the filibuster. He would kick Manchin and Sinema in the butt. The Democratic Party should take ads out in their states to tell the people this is what your senator is voting against, and run those ads constantly. And then run in those ads, put the phone number of their senators, and tell the people call your senator and tell them what you want. That's what we would
Exactly.
be
They aren't
doing.
even doing that. I'm like, okay. And then that's what makes me think, no, you don't want this. As a matter of fact, you're glad that they are doing what they're doing. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're secret. See, I don't, it doesn't matter to
Oh,
me. They may be secretly working together.
of course they
I'm just
are.
throwing it out there, audience, because it's like, how do you let how do you let two people just run your entire party? How do you do that? You common sense says that when you wanted that flimsy little $1,400, you sent Kamala Harris to West Virginia to talk on the radio. Well, you can't do that again, and then this time go to Arizona and West Virginia. You can't do that. And so it's hard for me. I watched some of the media coverage, and I'm like, okay, I knew they were gonna fall over themselves, but I'm like, what did he say? What did he actually say?
He said what he thinks the people want to hear. He
But
doesn't have to follow through. He can just
it
say it.
was a bunch of, I don't even want to say kumbaya because it's kumbaya is giving them too much credit. I'm like, okay, say something. And then he talked about something like the, I'm not gonna say it was depleted of a few ideas, but one of the things he floated was like 2 years of free college or some ridiculous. I'm like, no, how about get
Community
rid of,
college.
yeah, community college? I'm like, okay, that's fine, I guess, but why not just make college free?
Yeah.
And then what tripped me out, what really got me ticked off, was the whole thing about, well, healthcare is a right. Well, it is. So let's get Medicare for all.
He said it's available for anybody who wants it. He forgets to add the rest of that sentence, and anybody who can afford it.
Who can
There are
afford?
people there are people, millions of people who can barely put food on the table. They can't afford to sign on to the ACA. They don't have the money.
And they
Millions of
make
people.
that deductible because the deductible is entirely too high. You'd have
Hmm.
to go to like 2 hospital stays, a couple ambulance runs just to get to the deductible.
Yep.
And it's,
And and the copays.
oh, I forgot about the copays. I always forget about those. And it's like, okay, you're saying it's right, but when are you going to start believing it's right? Because apparently you don't. Strengthening the American Care, the Affordable Care Act is not Medicare for all. They are two totally separate things. And I wish that we could do a better job. I'm not saying we, but not Christmas at you, but I wish we could do a better job of communicating that to people because they'll say, oh, from their public option. No, no, that's different from single
Right.
payer.
Public option for those who can afford it.
Yeah, because if you can't afford it, I mean, I guess I'm even for expanding Medicaid at this point because that would be a whole lot easier if you expanded Medicaid eligibility. That would put millions of Americans on the path to getting some insurance.
But some insurance doesn't cover everybody. Again, it's you got to do it for everybody.
Exactly. But I'm saying if they want to go with this, because I've heard Democrats say, oh, it's too much too fast. Well, okay. Well, let's just expand Medicaid then. Because if you have Medicaid, you're not paying any copays, you're not paying a deductible, you're just getting 100% coverage, like right out the gate. So that's why,
You know, how many countries have had this for decades? We could study their their policies and then adjust them for our country. There's
well, we
no excuse.
don't want to because if we, let's just say we got single payer health care, which we wouldn't, but let's just say we would. Guarantee you the day after the president, whoever that would be, because it wouldn't be Biden, signs that Anthem, Cigna, United, Humana, they're going to court with it. There's no way they're just going to stand by and just lose billions of dollars. They're not. And then that's something we've never really explored is what happens if we did get single payer health care, which is what we're working for. What happens when we get it? What happens to Anthem when they become single payer health care?
What happened to coal oil lamps when electricity was invented? What happened to
Yes.
rag
Oh,
what happened to wagon makers when and wheelwrights and carpenters when cars were invented?
well, I know they adjust, and you know they adjust. But good luck till it ends. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to start offering insurance for people who want plastic surgery or things
Right,
that it doesn't cover. You could do that.
exactly. Exactly. And many in the industry, people workers will have jobs with the government, the same job they had there,
Exactly.
except with the government. The only ones who will suffer are the millionaires who are bilking people for out of billions of dollars and spending millions bribing our legislators so they won't pass it.
Exactly. So I thought, this could go on for years and years in the courts because I don't just see them sitting down saying, "Okay, we accept it. We're gonna get single payer health care." I'm like, mm-mm. They're gonna make as much ruckus as they can, and especially with that Supreme Court. Oh my gosh, you never know what those GBDU guys will do, because they're just it's so conservative now that I'm like, well, hmm. But like you said, um, Biden really doesn't want half. I don't think he wants 90% of what he talked about in his speech.
Exactly.
I'm like,
He's throwing what he's doing, he's throwing tiny little crumbs. People people are starving. So far too many are grateful for those little crumbs. Instead of getting a loaf of bread, they're happy they're getting those crumbs. He's
exactly.
all of what are the most important things to most American voters? Healthcare coverage. Republicans as well as Democrats, the majority want Medicare for all. He squashes it. The majority, both Republicans, Democrats, want at least a $15 minimum wage. He's not fighting for it. The majority, Republicans and Democrats, want state colleges to be free. He's not doing it. Everything I mean, talk about a mandate. Almost all Democratic voters want these things. A majority of Republican voters want these things. We're not getting them.
But we are getting wars in outer space.
Ah,
Yeah,
crumbs. He's throwing little crumbs instead of giving us a loaf of
yeah.
bread.
I mean, if you want to get an increase in your budget, just make sure it's military spending because nobody ever fights that. I don't know who said it, but someone said if you see both Democratic Congresspeople and Republican Congresspeople agreeing on something, you need to be scared because normally that means there's another manufactured war about to rise up because that's the
And
only time they seem to agree on anything.
yep. Well, look at what happened, not this military budget, the one the year before. I forget the exact numbers, but military was asking for something like, let's say it was 720 billion. The Republicans said, no, let's give them 730 billion. And the Democrats said, okay. They gave them more than they were asking for. The
Yeah,
Democrats could have said, no, let's give them what they're asking for. That's bad enough. But to increase it,
and I'm like, and you need that money for what is it that you're doing again? Because that's a whole. I mean, we discussed that the last time we went about the military, the size of the military, and how much money they actually waste. It's supposed to, hey, taking some of that money, a little bit of that, and putting it elsewhere. That would make so much more sense. But we don't live in a country that makes sense. The other thing I wanted to talk about was my second favorite subject, Mr. Matt Gaetz. I won't call him congressperson anymore because he's not going to be congressperson anymore if what has happened this week
oh,
comes to fruition. Because I keep saying if what his friend says is true, which I don't have a reason to believe he would be lying, he's going to prison. There's no jail. There's no.
and there's no disputing the letters. There's no disputing the tweets back and forth. They're on a permanent record. They would still, and it sounds like Joel Greenberg and or what's his face, Roger Stone, were baiting Gates into admitting this stuff. It's almost like they wanted something to hold over him because the questions they were asking, the things they were saying, leading him to admit it. I think they want, especially Roger Stone, wanted to have something to hold over Gates as
But why
blackmail.
though? I don't get what the why. Why would they want something to hold over? He's a little congressman from Florida.
Oh, but he can do a lot as a congressman, especially as a Republican. You can get favors, you can get money, you can get a lot any one congressman, especially when they have a big block like they have. If
Yeah,
you read some of those tweets and those emails, my God, I can't believe Gates was stupid enough to say the things he said.
I
There's no
know.
disputing him.
I'm like, dude, see, what you do is you don't, and I am not encouraging anyone to solicit prostitution. I want anybody to say that's what I'm doing. If you're gonna be stupid enough to do that, don't leave a trail of written stuff where people can go out and find it. Because it was just like, oh, please catch me here. I'll give you all of these things and just use that. I'm like, no. If you're going to do that, don't be stupid enough one to create a Vimo account and not make it private. Oh my gosh, it's either that or he just thought, you know what? I don't care. I'm not gonna go
Well,
to jail. Look at
like
me.
so many of the other ones, his daddy bailed him out of trouble his whole life. He got him out of a DUI. He got him out of trouble his entire life. So, like so many others, like Trump, he believes he's going to get away with it because he always has.
I mean, that's gotta be brazen though to sit there and write to tweet somebody about sex with an under. You deserve to go to prison. Don't even have a trial. Just get on your little orange jumpsuit. Go now. I mean, and there's no way Democrats are going to flip that district because it's pretty much
Right.
it's Republican. I
You
mean,
know what's funny is all the right wingers on Facebook saying both about Matt Gates and Rudy Giuliani that it's a left wing witch hunt. I keep reminding them both of their investigations started under Trump. Both of their
exactly.
investigations started under Bill Barr. Left wing? No, they were started last year, long before Biden got in office.
Well, they hope the public forgets that part.
I
But
won't let them.
they just want us to forget that. I'm like, and think about Matt Gates. He's got to be like, he should examine his life to think, what kind of friends do I have that will throw me under the bus to get time off of prison? I mean, did he? It's like he just thought, I can't get caught. I'm the greatest there is, greatest there was, greatest there ever will be. So
Privileged. He's privileged. He
if
has never had to pay consequences in his life.
if that's privilege, I don't want it because that's that. I wouldn't be stupid enough to text someone about, well, I wouldn't do it in the first place. Well, that's the first part. I wouldn't do it because I
Yeah.
find it morally reprehensible. But even, even, I mean, he's like, oh well, she told me she was 19. Do you not know what a state identification is? You didn't ask to see that?
And not only that, but even let's say she was of age. It's illegal to take someone over state lines for the purposes of prostitution, no matter how old they are. Just doing that is sex
Right.
trafficking.
So let's just say, okay, she lied about her age. You didn't have enough sense to check. You mean you just tell me you just buy women, have sex with them, and then that's it? You don't do any kind of, well, let me make sure she's over 18. Let me do my due diligence. Or do something that I don't think is possible for him to do. Don't sleep with her in the first place. If you didn't have sex with these women, we wouldn't be talking about this.
Uh-huh.
And
He's broken a number of laws there.
I'm
You know,
like, I know Teresa
prostitu-
said that she didn't think,
prostitution
prostitution. She didn't think
is
he was
against the
going
law.
to jail, but I'm like, he's gone. If what
Yeah.
Joe Greenberg says is true, which again, I don't see why he would lie about it. He's gone.
Yeah. So, and he's not lying. We've got the paper trail. Well, the web trail, but we have the trail. He's not lying.
I just wonder when they're going to bring charges against him.
Yeah, that's the fly in the ointment. It's all of these, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, the crimes they're getting away with are unbelievable.
And it's just like if we did something like that, well, shoot, if I did something like that, it's prison for me. Forget it, because I'm the wrong skin color to be doing anything stupid. I mean, let's just get that out the way. But regular people can't. It's like if you want a job that you don't have to ever face any type of responsibility, win your congressional seat, because you won't have to do you won't ever have to give an account to what you're doing. You can go about your life, take money, apparently fly women across states just to have sex with them. And I just don't, I don't get why the Republicans, they're publicly standing with him, but privately, I've heard rumblings that they're wanting him to go. Well,
Yeah.
okay, this would be a good time to pressure him out of office
What
publicly.
happened with who was it? Was it Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was all up and praising him and saying, I stand with Matt Gaetz on this. Then when more information came out, she deleted all the social media posts saying that. Luckily, a bunch of us saved some of them. Now, all of a sudden, she's going on tour with him or on rallies. They're going
Yeah,
on a rally
they're going
together.
on the rally together. Well, she's already one short of the set anyway, so it's like who cares? It's like whoever runs against her, I'm giving them my money. I'm like, I don't care who it is, just as long as it's not her and they're not extreme. I'm
How
for it.
can she, when she believes in QAnon, and QAnon's biggest lie is that Democrats are sex trafficking children, or killing children, or eating children, or drinking their blood. How can she go out with Matt Gaetz now when she proclaims that she belongs to QAnon?
First of all, she does not believe anything that QAnon says.
Of course not.
She just says it because she knows there's a bunch of, and I don't like to call people idiots, but yeah, I'm gonna call them idiots that believe that crap. So she's like, okay, hey, this. I don't think anybody, um, I don't think anybody that says that stuff in terms of an elected official actually believes what they're saying. I don't. I think they say it so that they can get votes, favors.
Well, I'm looking forward to. I'm going to. I don't subscribe to any streaming services, but I am going to subscribe long to one long enough to see that documentary Q Into the Storm, because Q was started by somebody who was just doing it as a lark. He was doing it to be funny. And after a couple months, somebody else took it over and said, "Oh, look what I've got." And then he ran with it. So that there's nothing solid or credible about it. It was started as a lark. And then when somebody saw that they could use it, they took advantage of it. And I want to see that documentary.
And I just wonder when they, when that group was um acting a plumb near fool on January the 6th, did they really think that Trump was going to join them in the protest? Did they really think he was going to build them out? Did they? I mean, the way if you saw some of that coverage that they were showing, it was like they really, truly, in their hearts, believed that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I never thought I would see this in all my life. I never thought that people could be this stupid. And it's like, well, here it is.
It's like Trump gave them permission to let loose all of their rage, all of their hate. He gave them permission. Okay, you hate the poor, you hate blacks, you hate Mexicans, you hate immigrants, you hate all these people, and the government is forcing you to live with them. Now's your time to let that hate out. Unfortunately, you would hope that once they let it out, it was gone, but it's just getting worse every day.
Because it was already there. I mean, you have people talking about, how some people try to pit um, Black Americans and Mexican Americans against each other. People have been doing that since I was a child. And
Yeah, but they're doing it openly. They're doing it openly now.
never closed. When they were doing it when I was a child, it was
You,
never closed.
Tracy, you're breaking up.
Oh, okay. Let me try this again. Sorry. Thank you. Okay, how about now?
You're, it's out of sync. Your mouth is moving,
Uh-huh.
but the words come later.
Oh boy, I have to fix that. But I remember
Okay.
when I was a child, we were told you better not have any Mexican friends. And I'm like, well, why not? Well, they're taking all the jobs from us, but they're taking jobs you don't want. You do not want to.
Exactly.
I'm like, what? What? And then they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Luckily, they advocated those ridiculous views, but that's what the media does. I mean, think that's what the media does. That's what politicians do. I mean,
Yeah.
just present these group of people. Never mind the conditions that they're coming from that we made horrible, so that they had to come here. Never mind that they live in countries that are overrun with drug lords and famine and drought and all of these things that our government caused. But don't bring up any of that point. Just say, oh, well, they're just breaking into this country illegally.
Right.
Well, first of all, it's
Can
their
can you
country.
imagine? Can you imagine if all the oppressed people in this country, blacks, Mexicans, Asians, LGBTQ, the women who truly are oppressed, the poor, if they all formed a coalition, how powerful they'd be? That's why the government keeps us fighting against each other, keeps spewing all this bull to keep the animosity up. Because if everybody who is oppressed in this country got together, the power they would have, we could overthrow the government easily. And they don't want that.
Yeah, because they can't give up their posh lifestyle with their freezers, with their favorite ice cream in it that costs 12, 13. Well, see, I said I wasn't gonna do that. I wasn't gonna go down that aisle, and I went straight down it. But yeah, it's just a whole thing. But like I said, that Matt Gates, that person, he makes it doesn't matter what the news is, he's gonna keep doing stupid stuff to get right back in it.
Yep.
Um, but I also want to talk about, and you just brought it up last thing before we go into our main subject. Um, Mr. Giuliani's apartment being raided by the FBI. And I don't know what you found funny about this, but I laughed so hard when his son came out. I'm like, boy, is you
uh,
gonna sit yourself down somewhere?
his response, his defense for his father was, but Hunter Biden's laptop. That was his defense for his father. I'm sorry. They are so far out in the stratosphere thinking they're above the law, just like Matt Gates. All of them, they are above the law. Nothing applies to them. They really believe that.
And I thought, is he gonna cry? Is he going to cry? He just, I mean, I, I, I'm glad he did it because he made my week. I didn't have such a great week. When I watched him, I was like, thank you. You just made me laugh. That
Yeah,
put
and
a big feeling.
poor Rudy. Did you hear what he said? He said, "I don't know why they had to raid my apartment and his office, by the way, because I already told them I would answer all their questions." Right. We don't think you'd lie when you'd answer their questions. He felt that him answering the question should be sufficient. Guess what?
It's not.
I mean, what kind of mind do you have to even say that? I'm going to answer questions. What I say is gold. You have to listen to what I say.
And don't do any investigation. Don't waste your
Right.
time on that. Don't even witnesses. We don't need no stinking witnesses. No. Just just believe what I tell you. The man that
Exactly.
had hair dye running down his side cheeks. Just just Well,
I
let me.
can't believe he said that. I can't
Oh,
believe
I
he
can.
said that.
Oh, I
Yeah.
can. I absolutely can believe he
But
said
the
that.
stupidity of it and the arrogance of it.
I absolutely believe that he could say that and not think anything about it. Just
Right.
think, okay, that's perfectly fine. Okay.
It took me about 3 seconds after this came out to make a GIF of him with his eyes wide open and looking shocked. And I wrote, I'm not worried. Trump will pardon me. And then on the bottom, I said, oh, wait, dot, dot, dot. I couldn't wait to make that. It came to mind immediately, and I laughed my butt off.
And then when I was watching another show, they made a connection and I forgot about it. His son um was the kid that he apparently couldn't control and
Yeah,
he got
Andy. Yeah,
arrested. I didn't even make the connection. I'm like, oh, that is him.
yeah.
That is him. That's the kid that wouldn't shut up. Gee, I wonder Daddy didn't do such a good job with that.
Yep. And I'm not sure if that's the one or his daughter. One of them was working for the White House, for the government. He got them a job with the government. No nepotism there. I can't remember if it was Andy or not. But yeah,
And
privileged.
like I said, it's just I he gave me the best laugh of the week. I mean, I had tears coming out my eyes when it's one thing to defend your parent. Okay. Couldn't you just say my father is innocent of the charges and leave it at that? No. You talk about and I don't get this whole business with Hunter Biden's laptop. Okay, let's just say there's something on Hunter Biden's laptop.
Uh-huh. What
Is
does that have to do with this?
that's what I kept asking. I'm like, okay, why do they keep bringing up his laptop? Why do they keep bringing it up? What's on the laptop? What are they talking about? Are they getting their same news from the source that talked about the Arizona or they're getting their information from that guy that's doing the recount in Arizona?
Ah,
Because I'm just like, wait a minute. I'm not I just like I said, I was just at a loss at what Hunter Biden's laptop had to do with anything.
I laughed. I When he said that, I couldn't stop laughing. Hunter Biden, if he's guilty of something, I'm fine with them finding it out, investigating, and prosecuting him. I have no problem with that. But
Exactly.
what does that have to do with Rudy Giuliani breaking the law?
But he's saying apparently they're they showed that video of Hunter Biden with a group of women, um, like I care. But I'm like, but that doesn't have anything to do with what you're talking about.
Exactly.
What does
Uh-huh.
that have to do? Hunter Biden is not in public office. His father is, unless they're saying that Joe Biden was protecting him, which, okay, that's possibly what I think they're
Yeah.
saying, but they haven't proven it. Okay, no, stop it.
And again, they're just deflecting. They're trying to deflect your attention away from Rudy. Okay, if Hunter Biden broke a law, yes, he needs to be investigated and prosecuted. Rudy broke a law, he needs to be investigated and prosecuted. One has nothing to do with the other. Nothing.
And he just kept saying it. I'm like, if you say Hunter Biden one more time, just one more time, I'm gonna throw something at this TV.
Yeah.
He just
I that was the laugh of the week. I thought Rudy getting raided was the laugh of the week until his son got up there and said,
no, his son had
but until his son got up and said, Hunter Biden, and that overshadowed Rudy getting raided. I just laughed.
I thought, you know what? Thank you, Andrew Giuliani. Thank you. Because you started putting a smile on my face.
Yeah.
Well, audience, we're at the point we're going to take a 3-minute break and we're going to come back and talk about our main topic. And I'll see you all in a bit. Okay, audience, thank you for coming back to the second half of the Progressive Queens. And we're going to get into our second topic, which is a little different. Well, no, it's not different. We've talked about women's health on this show before. But it seems to be an attack on women's health. And I don't want to say that pro-life people are being disingenuous. That's how I feel about them most of the time because their arguments against abortion literally make no sense to me.
And well, look at them defunding Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood, only 3% of what they do is abortions. Only 3%. 97% is reproductive health, women's health. They give free to low price birth control. They do sex education. They do pap smears. They do breast exams. They do all kinds of women's health issues for 3%. And the problem is, because of the Hyde Amendment, no government funds go towards abortions anyway. So why defund Planned Parenthood when we're not even paying for abortions?
Now, for the people out there that don't know what the Hyde Amendment is, briefly explain it.
It's simple. It says that the government will not fund abortions. They were funding Planned Parenthood because of the 97% of things they do, but the Hyde says you cannot fund abortions. So why are they objecting to Planned Parenthood when they're not even funding the abortions?
Take a step back. There's a reason I asked you to talk about Hyde Amendment and what it means. And please correct me if I'm wrong. I thought Joe Biden had something to do with the Hyde Amendment.
Yep, he did.
Unless I'm just totally wrong.
He pushed for it.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Didn't he? Okay, so my memory is not bad. Because I'm like, well, wait a minute. Didn't Joe Biden have something to do with that bill being passed?
Yes, and what makes no sense at all is now that we have the Hyde, why defund Planned Parenthood when you're not paying for their abortions anyway? Even though abortions are only 3% of what they do. That's women, that's a direct, as you said, it's a direct attack on women's health.
And it doesn't seem to me to be, well, of course it's sexist, because if men were able to have babies, abortion wouldn't even be considered wrong. Let's just be real about it. If men had babies, there'd be abortion clinics one every other block because
Yep.
men get to have access to health that women don't have. But like I said, I don't want to be disrespectful to the people who are pro-choice because most people who I know that are pro-choice are that way because of their religious beliefs, their religion that is. But my question has always been, how do you then take your views and then force them on someone that you don't even know?
Exactly.
That's fine
Yep.
for you to have beliefs about your own body. That's perfectly legitimate. If you don't want to get abortion, that's perfectly fine. But how do you reason in your mind, taking what you believe and then just telling someone else, okay, you have to have this belief system?
And the point is, according to our Constitution, religious beliefs cannot legislate for the whole country. And yet they do.
And yet they do. And that's scary for me because I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Because I hear Christians talk about that all the time. But what I don't hear us talk about is, okay, you're against abortion, but you're perfectly fine with children drinking water lead in it. You're perfectly fine with some children starving. You're perfectly fine with living in inadequate housing. So either you don't understand what pro-life really means, or you're using this to control women's bodies. And I'm thinking
Exactly.
it's more the former. Because if you were really pro-life, one, you'd be for single payer health care, because that would be an easy way to get. If you were really pro-life, you would be more about expanding contraceptives for women instead of making them go through all the loops that they have to go through to get them. And I'm like, if you were really pro-life, you would be aghast that the police seem to be killing black people at higher rates than any other race. But you're okay with that because they should have complied, but you're pro-life. I really question that. I
Exactly.
really am starting to
We
question
have to
people.
change that. We have to change it from pro-life to pro-fetus. Because once the child is born, they don't care anymore.
That's
Which
exactly
which party cut which party cut food stamps to poor children? The pro-life party. Which party cut school lunches to poor children? The pro-life party. Which party is backing financially Saudi Arabia's genocide in Yemen, including children? Which party is backing financially Israel's genocide in Palestine, including children? Where's pro-life with these? Where's pro-life with the children at the border? It's not pro-life, it's pro-fetus.
yeah, and it's sad because when you and then the thing that I will always say to people who say they're pro-life, no one on the pro-choice side is telling women, "Hey, go get an abortion." That's what you should do. What we're saying is we don't want the government to make choices for us. We want to make that choice for ourselves. We don't want the government to do it. We don't want the government to restrict what we can and what we can't do. And I don't know why people don't, the party that says they're all about limited government, limited, small government, all of a sudden when it comes to controlling women, it's like, okay, let's throw all that out the window. It's like, okay, that's it. Yeah, we're for limited
name
government, except for when it comes to a woman's body. That does not make sense to me.
name me one law written that controls men's bodies.
None. I can't think of it. I know there was a congresswoman in, I want to say Georgia so bad. Is it Georgia, Arkansas, or Louisiana? And she got tired of them putting all these restrictions on women's health. So she wrote a law that said that if men wanted to get Viagra, they had to have a doctor's note or a written statement and go through testing and go through all these rigorous steps because you can get Viagra just say you need it. Matter of fact, you get it by mail. But she wrote a law in response to the attack on women's health, and I thought, okay, this needs to be done in more states because it was so hilarious. Where they were trying to make, I think it's when they were trying to make women do the vaginal ultrasounds before they could get an abortion. And so she said, okay, if you try to get Viagra, we're going to make you go through an ultrasound. We're going to make you go through all these tests before you can get prescribed. I mean, it didn't pass, obviously, but that's the only time that I can think of something even being written that addressed men's laws. Other times, there's nothing. There's nothing.
And if you want a law to stop women from having an abortion, you also have to add on to that law that the man who got her pregnant, if she has to have the baby and she doesn't want it, he has to take it and raise it. How about that?
Well, they're bringing up these cases now where the man is saying he wasn't made aware of. There's been a couple cases like that where the man has taken the woman to court because she wanted an abortion, and he was like, "No, I want to raise this child." But apparently, they're not married. They're not together anymore. But he just decided, okay, I want to be part of this child's life, and she's like, "No, I want an abortion." I don't know how that case worked itself out. I mean, there's so many questions, especially when you talk about teenage pregnancy. What if you come across a mother who says, okay, I want her to have an abortion, but then the 13-year-old says, no, I want to have this child? What do you do then? She's a minor. So there's things that progressives we don't address that I think we really should in terms of women's health, because I think there's some legitimate questions that we haven't asked ourselves. We know we're for women's rights and women's health, but we haven't plunged into where I think we need to in terms of this subject.
Well, with the 13-year-old, her body is not developed yet.
No, it's not.
Her having a pregnancy and a baby can do lifelong damage at that age. So in a case like that, I would say that the parent has to take the side of her child's health.
See, I would too, but then you start thinking, I mean, and I'm thinking of the religious people out there who think, okay, it's wrong to take a life. I'm thinking about them when I bring up that scenario because I'm like, I don't know what I would tell them. Because at 13, you're right, she's not physically developed. She's definitely not mentally developed. She's too young to have a child. She doesn't know what it's going to take care of that child. There's a whole lot of factors in it. So I'm like, well, maybe you want to talk to her about what she has gotten herself into and to teach her don't do this in the future.
Unless she was raped by a relative.
That is the other problem that you have.
And then something else they don't address is the number of black women who die in childbirth or their babies die in childbirth, which
Exactly.
is much higher than that for white women. Why aren't they addressing that? Why aren't they addressing that doctors don't believe black women, black people in general, when they're telling them what they're feeling? Why aren't they addressing that?
Black lives don't matter. That's exactly the problem in this whole country. And again, that's going to go way back to our first conversation uh, about racism. It just doesn't exist. Um, I've heard all kinds of idiotic arguments against abortion. I've heard Planned Parenthood was started to encourage black women to get abortions so there wouldn't be
Yes.
so many. Okay, I don't care, but that's not
It-
what they do now.
it's evolved. It's changed.
Yes,
We all changed. There was a time this country said slavery was fine. It was legal and it was fine. We evolved.
yeah, I'm
Same
like,
thing with
okay,
Planned Parenthood. It
yeah,
was started with evil intent, but it's changed. Now it helps millions of women.
but they just ignore that part. I'm like, okay, but didn't I think I brought up that same point? It's like, oh well, no, you have to look at the intent. Okay, well, the intent of the Constitution is it's going to take what 3 black people to make up one whole black person, or something like that. I always forget what the
3/5.
fifth. Yeah, 3/5.
3/5.
I'm like, okay, don't you think that people can evolve and leadership can change and now they can have goals for that benefit all women?
You
Well,
know, it was thought not that long ago that black people don't feel pain as much as white people do.
oh yes,
And
we
that
do.
and that is still in a lot of doctors' minds when they deal with them. How many black women have said something is wrong in their pregnancy and have been ignored by the doctors? Why aren't the Right to Lifers defending those fetuses?
Again, black lives don't matter. They never have in this country, and unfortunately, I don't think they ever will until we. Yeah.
Tracy, no. All lives matter.
Oh, don't start. Okay. Don't start it today. You said
I couldn't help myself.
all lives matter. Nobody ever said all lives matter. See, now I'm getting mad. I'm like, nobody ever
Well,
said all lives didn't
they
matter.
say all lives matter, so shouldn't black lives matter? Shouldn't black pregnant women's lives matter? Shouldn't black fetuses matter?
Yeah, and you brought up another point that I'd love to bring up to pro-life people. It's like, okay, I call them pro-birth, but you're right. I should start using the term pro-fetus because it's like as soon as that child is born, okay, oh well, you're on your own.
Yep.
It's like forget you, whatever. And it concerns me. It's like when did when did our legislators turn into people that want control over somebody else's body? You would never get a congressperson, male or female, to propose making men get tested, ultrasounds, psychological testing to get Viagra. It would not happen.
Well, why not? Vasectomies have advanced so much that they're almost always reversible now. How about until you are married and have a wife and are ready for babies, you have to have a vasectomy and you can
Oh,
have it reversed when you're
that
ready.
will never happen. Never ever happen. I
Why not?
I think I'm almost thinking, you know what, that's not a half bad idea because vasectomies are reversible. Okay, well,
And
okay,
they can, okay, you're a teenager, they can preserve sperm now for years and years and years. Preserve your sperm, have a vasectomy, and then if for some reason it's not reversible later, you have your sperm. Why not? I mean, it's no different than, as a matter of fact, it's a lot less traumatic to the body and the mind than forcing someone to have a baby.
yeah, because we can't reverse hysterectomies. Those aren't going to get reversible. So yeah, it would be a lot simpler for us to, but you will never ever get a congressperson, male or female, in either party in it. No progress. I don't think that's one that I don't even see a progressive
No,
saying.
I don't.
Okay,
I don't either, but I see that as equivalent.
yeah, that would be like me telling that's like me being married and I'm telling my husband, you have to have a vasectomy. And he's saying, no, I don't want one. Well, I don't have a right to tell him what he can do with his body. I should just,
But then again, he can tell you you have to take the birth control pill.
yeah, exactly. And then he gets to turn around, according to some people, and tell me what I'm going to take. No, that's not going to happen. Yeah, it's like, wait a minute. We, again, we've let some of us in religion have let our religious beliefs and our government get clouded. And the two definitely need to be separate. And I think this argument and the one we're going to have in a couple of weeks, capital, the death penalty, these are the two that people just feel the strongest about. But they've let their religious views cloud what is pragmatic. Like I said, nobody, in my opinion, I'm not telling any young woman, old woman, any woman, hey, go get an abortion. That's what you should do. No, I'm saying if you get one, it's not my business.
Hmm.
I can't make you do anything. You've made that decision.
And your religion cannot legislate for the rest of the
It,
people.
it can't. It should legislate you as an individual. If your religion says that abortion is wrong and you don't want to get an abortion, that is perfectly fine. I understand it. In some senses, I agree with it.
And
I
you can respect it.
Yeah,
You
I
can
can
respect it.
respect it. Right. But don't take my I'm not going to take my Christianity and say, "Okay, you must." Well, first of all, common sense tells me I can't tell people you must. I can tell them what I think they ought to do, but that doesn't mean I'm going to make them do what I think they ought to do. And I think that's what we do. We let our feelings of morality get in the way of legislators. And let's not talk about all the legislators that have gotten caught paying their girlfriends and their mistresses money to get abortions. I didn't
Yeah,
even want to walk down that aisle.
yeah. It all boils down to the same thing. Women in this country are lesser than, and women's health issues don't matter.
And people don't even see reproductive rights as a women's health issue. I'm like, but it is. And they don't see all the work that Planned Parenthood does. I forgot about the mammograms. I knew they did like the PAPs. I knew they did
Yeah.
those. I knew they did the sex education, but I completely forgot about
Uh,
the
the
mammogram.
list, the list of things they do is very, very long. Like I said, 97% of what they do has nothing to do with abortion.
And then
It's
you have people against stem cells research because they're using the stems of an aborted fetus. Okay, see, I can't with y'all today. I cannot. It's just sometimes I just put my hand in my head, just feel I can't because your argument doesn't make sense. Again, you're letting your morality get in the way of common sense legislation. And
and go ahead.
no, I was going to say, and the majority of Americans are pro-choice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just what we are. We are a pro-choice country.
And people don't realize how many scientific advances, how many diseases we do cure, how much surgery and things have improved because of stem cell research.
Exactly. Exactly. There are so many things. Even the research in diabetes has improved. There's not a cure yet, but at least it's improved. But good luck telling the pro-life people that, because they're like, oh, well, you're killing baby. Nobody is telling women to get. Planned Parenthood is not in these streets telling women to get abortions. They're saying if you decide to get one, then we're going to make sure it's, I hate to quote Hillary Clinton, safe, legal, and rare. And if you make it illegal, this is my main argument against what I think the Supreme Court is ultimately going to do. I don't think Roe v. Wade is going to make it. I don't. I just, I can't see the justices the way that they're stacked now upholding Roe v. Wade. I hope I'm wrong,
I do too.
but I just can't see it. I can't see it.
I don't I don't know, maybe it's because I'm a little optimistic of I can't see them doing that because they know what happened before Roe v. Wade. They knew about backstreet abortions, about women doing it to themselves, about women dying because of abortions.
I hope you're right, but I'm just thinking, when you have, and I won't call him president, the last guy that helped wasn't living in the White House. That's what he promised. He wanted, him and Pence decided they wanted justices that would outlaw
Yeah.
Roe v. Wade, overturn it. My only question to people who are pro-life is, do you really think that outlawing it is going to stop it? And I don't think it's going to
Of
stop it.
course not.
But
You
that,
realize
but I
in this
think,
country, abortions in this country and around the world for hundreds and hundreds of years, which is normal, a part of family family planning for hundreds and hundreds of years. It was not thought of as anything other than just normal everyday stuff. No one we decided that abortions needed to be ended. Late 1800s when women started saying, "Hey, we want the right to vote. We want the right to own property. We want the right to not be chattel to our husbands or fathers." When they started saying, "Hey, give us some rights," the men, who were the only ones in government, said, "Let's make abortion illegal so we can keep them in the house pregnant and shut their mouths."
yeah,
That's when abortion was outlawed. The late eight, not that long ago, just over 100 years ago, because it was normal in even the Catholic Church approved abortions until quickening, which is the fifth or sixth month. Even the Catholic Church said it's okay until the late 1800s when women said, "Hey, look at us, we're human. Let's treat us as people too." Think about that.
yeah, and that's what, and like I said, I keep consistently asking pro-life people that, but in their minds, they think that if you make abortion illegal, it's all of a sudden going to stop. And I'm like, no, that's not going to stop. If you want to stop abortions, like you say you do, then you would be for expanding contraceptives. Well, then, yeah, I get. Well, then you're just encouraging people. No, I'm not telling people to sleep around. I'm saying that if you want to stop abortions, you're not, people are not going to stop having sex. Period.
Mhm.
Let, let's just. I hope there's no children watching this. If there are, that's their problem. But they're not going to stop doing that. So this
Mhm.
whole moral argument of sex until marriage, basically throw it out the window because nobody's waiting. I mean, we all would like them to. Maybe on a religious point, we would, but they're not. Let's just be perfectly 100% honest. If you want to stop abortions, then you have to expand contraceptive rights. You
Yeah.
have to. You can't have more
And
things.
sex education.
Exactly. But you have so many parents that will, like mine did, opt their children out of sex education.
Yep.
And now they're learning it from who knows where. Because the parents aren't talking to their kids about it.
Yeah. Abstinence has never worked. Since the beginning of time, it's never worked. People say, oh, young girls are getting pregnant now. It's never happened before. Yeah, it happened constantly. It happened all the time. Do you think in the Old West, when a young girl got pregnant and there was no church handy, no minister handy, she moved in with her boyfriend and they became common law husband and
I'm
wife.
like, yeah, that's where it
That's
gets
how
common law
that's how
from.
it started because people were getting pregnant and marriage wasn't available. And that's not that long ago. People were getting pregnant, girls were getting pregnant at the beginning of time without marriage. It's nothing new. It's just used to be hidden. Oh, I sent my daughter off to live with her aunt for a few months.
Oh, wait a minute. I thought we, ooh, I'm going to say, I thought we was the only ones that did that. Okay, never mind.
No, that's worldwide.
But okay, see, I learned something today. But I mean, it's like you're not going to stop people from doing that. So why not talk about? And if you want to teach that, I'm not preaching against abstinence people that are watching this. I'm not. However, again, stop letting your morality cloud what should be legal. Those are two separate things. And
Hmm.
I don't see anything wrong with, of course, if we ever get single payer health care, to have the government say, okay, here's some if you want an IUD, okay, that's fine. If you want a vasectomy, have us pay for it, guys, that's fine. Now the reversal, you're on your own. But if you want to take some birth control, that's fine. Now, don't make it mandatory because there are
Right.
people that do have religious beliefs and we have to respect those religious beliefs. But to make it available, I
See,
mean,
that's the difference. We respect their beliefs. They don't respect ours.
exactly. It's like I'm like, I'm not saying you have to take it, but I'm saying, one, you need to stop having, all of this. You have a lot of women with a lot of children, and she's raising them by herself and she can't take care of them. When all she had to do was make a trip down to the pharmacy and that could have been avoided.
Yep.
So now you have, or, you know, and and I've heard even some legislators now want to make abortion illegal, even if the woman is raped. And I'm like, okay, now that you have problems.
Well,
How do you?
that's happened. There's a year or two ago, a young girl, 13, 14 years old, had been raped repeatedly by her uncle. She wanted to have an abortion. They took it to court and they won. She had to have the baby. She was raped by her
Her
uncle.
parents wanted her to have the baby, or
Yes.
oh, why wouldn't her?
And and because she had the baby, he was not prosecuted for raping this 13-year-old girl.
So these douchebag parents, whose job it is to protect their daughter, so that means he's the sibling of either the mother or the father, or the father and the father and mother. I don't know what the situation is. First of all, that wouldn't have gotten to court because he wouldn't have met. Well, let me be quiet. I'm advocating violence. Because first of all, he wouldn't have even made it court. First of all, he had been missing something. I'll put it that way. By the time I got finished with him, I'm like, so he rapes the child. They do nothing to him. The parents of the girl are okay with him walking scot free, and now they have a grandchild who's not only the girl's cousin but child. Oh,
And she's still a child herself.
how is she expect? Are they gonna take over raising this child?
Pretty much, yeah.
Because she can't do it. She's 13, and he's raping her. And you're telling her she has to be reminded every single day that she's raped.
Mm.
Every single day she's got to look at that child who did nothing because it's not the child's fault.
Yeah.
Child didn't ask to be conceived out of rape. But how, it's like people, legislators who really are not pro life are just using them. And I'm like, can't you see you're being used? Why can't you see it? It's like right
Yeah.
there in front of your face.
But that's what especially the right wing, they want their women to be subservient, obedient, and the women accept that.
There, boy, that's a whole topic on itself. One of these days, we're gonna have that discussion because I'm like, yeah, I got thoughts on that, but I'm not gonna get onto
Me
them here.
too.
But it's
Me
like,
too.
shut up, you do. They don't. I'm like, look, person, they don't believe anything that they're saying to you. They don't believe in the sanctity of life. If they did, they wouldn't be okay with black people being killed by police for no reason. Think about it. And they're like, well, I am, but that's you. You can't, ultimately, you cannot force your beliefs on someone. We live in America. We don't live in a theocracy. We live in, well, I would say democracy, but we don't live in that either. But we
No.
can't live in a theocracy. We cannot. We can't function. There's no way. There's too many religions for us to function that way.
I wonder how, do you know how I should have looked this up, but how other religions feel about abortion? Like the Jews or the Muslims or
They're pretty
any
much,
of
I
them?
mean, they're in line with the Christian way of thought. From my understanding.
I'll have to do some research on
Yeah,
that.
because
I hadn't thought about it.
yeah, because I'm thinking, well, if you looked worldwide, and I especially tell this to my Christian friends, I'm like, we're not the dominant religion. It's Islam. So if
Yeah.
you're going to say that, then when we go by oh, well, no, they agree. And I think Islam is in line with Christianity in terms of abortion. I'm almost certain about it. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they're in line. The three major ones are pretty much in line with
I'll
each
have to
other.
research it. Yeah,
But
because I don't know anything about it.
but I mean, even if you're not one of those three, if you're some other religion that's perfectly okay with it, or you have no opinion about it, or you want to give out birth control, or you want to do whatever, that would be like me or somebody who is pagan getting to tell me, well, you must smoke marijuana. Well, I know I don't want to. Why are you making me do something I don't want to do?
And the thing is, we're focused so much on abortion. Like this started out, women's health covers dozens and dozens and dozens of
A
other problems
mammogram,
that were
mammogram, a
exactly.
simple mammogram that will keep a woman from either getting cancer or if she has it, detect it early enough so that she can do something about it. Even that,
Yeah.
people are against it because it's Planned Parenthood. Are you serious?
Mhm.
When they're
Yeah,
offering free to no cost services and you're
yeah,
against it because 3%, that means if there was 100 patients at Planned Parenthood, 3 of them are getting abortions.
yeah.
And
And
the
the
other
90,
97% aren't. The other
yeah,
97% aren't. 97%
tough.
of the people aren't. But because these 3 people are, we got to close the whole thing down.